Welcome everybody to episode 67 of New Game Experience. My name is Juan Paolini and I'm sitting here once again with the one and only Christian Caroli. How are you, my friend?
Doing well.
I like it because if you were to say I'm doing great, that would be like too much. We don't want too much positivity over here.
Exactly.
And to balance out the positivity with a little bit of, John Gantes. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. I'm alive.
I'm alive. Yeah, exactly. Alive.
I'm not great. I'm not bad. I'm alive.
Okay. That's good. That's like a good.
Perfectly balanced.
Neutral. Exactly. I think of the Thanos meme, with the little knife.
Exactly.
Perfectly balanced. Well, gentlemen, we're here to talk about video games, but specifically about censorship in video games in this specific episode. I was inspired. I mean, it's hard to say I was inspired because inspired always leads to like something positive, and this is not. I mean, this is never a positive subject to talk about. But I don't know if you've seen. There's this news going the rounds. I think from last week, where there was this new game that was going to be censored on PlayStation. So I'm just going to read this little write-up that I got, and then we can go right into it. So according to a tweet by the official Wired Productions account, an upcoming horror game, Martha is Dead, set to release on February 24th, will feature edited content on the PS4 and PS5 version. As a result, the physical edition of the game will be delayed for a small number of weeks. In an article by Sammy Barker on Push Square, he says that this could be due to a scene where the player has to like cut a corpse's face and wear it as a mask. We've all done that multiple times in other video games, so I don't really see the problem. And in that same article, the author brings forth some examples that we'll talk later of things that are on PlayStation and that are not censored. So, we'll go into that a little bit later. But I read this and I was a little bit, disappointed because I'm a big horror games fan. And the idea, I'm lucky to have both like a PC and an Xbox where I can have options. But the idea that I would potentially play this game, which actually looks kind of cool. The trailer, I don't know if you guys saw it. It looks kind of cool. The idea of having to play this game in a fashion where I'm not getting the whole thing just was a little bit disappointing. But let's go first with Christian. What do you think about this?
I had no idea that this game existed until I saw the controversy. So I'm really happy that it's being censored, and I have an Xbox, so I'm actually able to like check it out if the reviews are good. I don't really get it. Like, I honestly don't fucking get it. Like, in The Last of Us 2, you kill a pregnant woman. You kill dogs. And I can think of like a gazillion games that do like shit that is far worse than just like cutting off a face and just wearing it. Like what I really don't get it. Like I honestly don't get it. Like Mortal Kombat, it's literally just a bunch of like dismemberments and I don't know, flagellations all around. Like why would this be any different? Like, I don't even see the cultural thing. Like, if you, like in Chinese culture, if you rip out a face, it means that, I don't know, like something like that. It's just...
You can even play in Dead by Daylight as the Leatherface, and, he's the most famous face cutter all over the world. Like, in all media, you can play as him. So, what?
Like, I don't get it. And like, in plenty of games, like I think we just like start like listing like horrific shit that you can do in games. You can even do bad stuff, and I know that as a pirate that you can really do some terrible crimes. We'll talk about that later.
That's actually the reason why the game's not on PlayStation, by the way. They will not allow such delinquent behavior on their platform. That's the only reason.
Like, and you can actually like you can still like, I don't know, like you can always do like crazy shit. You can like blow someone's head off. And I guess not even in this case, like the woman is not even alive. It's just like a dead body, right?
It's a corpse, yeah.
Who gives a fuck?
I mean,
if I die and you guys get you have the urge to cut off my face and wear it, I like, you can do it. Like, I don't care. I'm dead already. My vision of reality ceased to exist. So I
this
don't
is
mind.
legal proof that we can do that in the event of
Yeah,
your untimely death, and that we
exactly.
have the corpse right on hand. Okay, good to
Yeah.
know. What do you think, John?
Well, a couple of things. Like I can understand why Sony it's like this. I going back to a bit of a like Japanese censorship. Like it was still not that long ago that violence against humans was like a normal thing in Japan. There's always been like violence against zombies or some weird monsters or whatever. That it was like okay, I think it was Yakuza actually was one of the first games that actually show violence against like a human being, like guns being shot as a human being and you punching or stabbing or doing this type of things to human beings. That was like a first in Japan. So just as a bit of a background, that's not was such a common thing in Japan till not that long ago. But on our market, like the Western market, we have been bombarded by violence in video games since since Doom. I would like to say is the first game that was really violent, with all the blood on blah blah monsters, and you have like Night Trap. I think it was another game that caused a lot of controversy, and then Mortal Kombat, etc., etc. And in the end, no, I don't think games should be censored. I don't think anything should be censored nowadays. Like, you cannot be, and I'm gonna go all political here. You cannot be talking about freedom of speech, etc., etc. When you censor some stuff and you don't censor some other stuff. And I think we're talking about an M-rated game. Probably it's a horror game, so I don't think it's gonna be an E for everybody or a T for teens. It's going to be a rated M, and that on loan that rating exists only for that type of reason. This is a game that touches on mature subjects or heavy uses of drugs or a strong language or depictions of sexual violence or violence, whatever. So if you have that rating system, the ESBR, like why would then you start censoring stuff? You'd have that categorization for some reason, and
So, but one thing that's kind of
Mhm.
like a made up thing. Like it was kind of like an embraced rating for publishers, but in the end, it doesn't like really mean anything. Like it's the same thing for for the movies. You could still
Yeah,
watch
I,
kind of like a horror movie in a
but yeah,
theater, and they could
it
be like,
depends.
yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be legal, but I don't know. Maybe in the U.S., maybe here in Europe. For example, where I live in, which is Netherlands, it is really strongly controlled. Let's see, if a movie is M-rated, you're gonna go as a kid, and not even if you are going with your parents. It's like the movie is 18 plus. Even if you go with parents and you are like below 18 years old, they will not let you go in. That here in, for example, this country, they really go by that law. And in the end, I think censorship should be like those ESBR are made for parents to know what you are buying to your kids or what your kids are buying. So in the end, it depends on the parents. Censorship, or what do you want? If it's that's the reason why you're taking things away from the video game, because you are scared like the kids are going to be exposed to violence and whatever. That is not responsibility of the video game companies or the developer. Like, you are creating a medium, an audiovisual piece. It shouldn't be on your hands to censor yourself or the message you want to do or the whatever you want to do. That should be on the recipient part, like the parents. Like, you control what your kids are watching, what your kids are doing, and don't let them play a video game when you can cut somebody's face if you don't want to. So that's mostly my position. I think censoring in any type of media shouldn't be a thing to be discussing in 2022. To be honest, that's the thing.
Unless,
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 unless, no, just kidding.
unless,
I don't have that unless.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
going to say
but
unless
something
I
funny
don't
like
agree with you.
unless the
yeah, like the
Communist Party of the Chinese government demands something to be removed.
and we were probably going to talk about that a bit further, but yeah, that's another thing that I'm completely against. Like, who gives a government the right to censor something? Because they're like, and not even the government. Okay, you have the right of censor it, but then I don't want to sell my product on your country because you're censoring my shit. So fuck you, China, or whatever. So yeah, it's I know there's probably a lot of legalities and loopholes and a bunch of things that go by, and companies always think money, and China is a big market, etc., etc. But in the Western market, I don't think, maybe Australia is I think it's a country who has a lot of like really heavy restrictions, or they're kind of famous for censoring or not allowing some games. I think GTA was censored in Australia for some time, and stuff like that.
And also, they have like a huge tax on video games, and that's why video
Yeah,
games are
well,
way, way
and
expensive
alcohol as
there.
well, like alcohol, video games. In such like things that make people happy, they have a big tax. I don't know what's the deal with Australia. It's like, dude, you already have spiders and snakes and shit. Why are you allowing me? Yeah, like, yeah, just let me cope with this. I don't want to be killed by a massive spider. I need to be drunk. But yeah, no, that's what I think. It's a really stupid thing to censor things. That is there no even if you tell me that it was an E-rated game that has like a I can understand like the hot coffee controversy of GTA San Andreas. I don't know if you remember that thing that happens. That what's what actually created the censorship on GTA in Australia, like that hidden scene that shows some sexual interactions with a prostitute that you make in San Andreas. It was hidden. It was not like I don't know if it was in the code of the game or it was in some type of convoluted thing that you have to do, but that, even though San Andreas was an M-rated game, but if you do something like that in a kids game, I can understand completely like the censorship. If you do it in an E, type of rating on the
Which
game.
game I have a dynamic? Which game you wouldn't expect that to be in the code? I would go for no, Banjo Kazooie probably has it.
But they probably have. They're like Disney. They probably have a bunch of dick references all over the place or some
Exactly.
weird things.
There's a hidden
But
animation of
there's actually I don't remember. I saw that on YouTube once. I don't remember the channel, but it's one of like these conspiracy type of channels, like that shows you weird things and like things that you didn't expect. 10 things you didn't expect on video games, and it's like in kids games. Suddenly you have like a visual adventure type of like Monkey Island type of game that you play as a little character. It's a game, a kid's game, and then at some things you can make like the kid make some weird stuff like grabbing his own shit and smearing on his face
oh
and
my
stuff like
god.
that. Yeah, I don't think like it is funny, Yeah, for me that's hilarious, but it's in a kid's game, like in a baby's game even. So yeah, that kind of things I will be like, but I would love games to have that type of things, Don't get me wrong, but I'm an adult,
Yeah,
so
I
I
get
can
it.
I can eat ice cream for a dinner. So
If you play Grand Theft Auto and you're outraged, probably that's the reason why you wanted to play Grand Theft Auto to begin with. Like,
Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, I don't play Grand Theft Auto because I want to drive my car in a big city and stop in every red light. Yes, that's the reason I don't
like,
Exactly.
play.
oh my god, they have sex in this game where you deal with. You know what? I draw the line at sex. You know, I can. I can't. I don't have a problem with the drug trafficking, the murders. The drive-bys, the racial violence. I actually have a problem with
It's with the
people
sex.
having consensual sex.
And you will surprise. I think that's an insane thing that people care more about sexual depiction or somebody showing some tits in a video game than like you murdering half of the population of Los Angeles or something like that. You're really like, oh no, but there's tits. Hey, we can't. And it's like,
But that's like an American thing, and when I say American, I mean both North and South. Like we have like a very, I imagine it's the religious background that we have culturally over there, where sex is like taboo, and then killing is like sure. I would say that maybe Americans, in this case U.S. Citizens, have a little bit more of that inclination towards violence, but we all do. So
no, I mean,
it's all
we all come from like what the third most violent country in the world, or like the
that's
first
true.
more violent city in the world. Like we love
That's
killing
true.
here, so we got one game censor actually in our country, but was for other reasons.
all the
Mercenaries
games like
trees.
that. Remember that they passed the war toys law. I don't even remember the name. So
Yeah.
like all games were like, if the game had any type of like weapon or gun, it was kind of like illegal. I actually had to buy Call of Duty like kind of like without like telling anyone, like super hitting. I mean, it's something that should be normal. Like no one should buy Call of Duty games, but the government shouldn't ban
Decide
them.
if you can do it. Yeah,
Exactly. I
yeah.
I think that, yeah, and also like I do have a memory of that. Like there was kind of like a Comic Con in the city, and of course like phone like fake guns were forbidden. So all these people that were like dressed up as, I don't know, like anime characters, like the what's it like, the cloud sword and shit like that. They
Uh
had
huh.
to leave like all their weapons in the entrance, and there was like this huge pile of like polyester and weapons just sitting there, like if it was some type of cantina or something.
And no LARPing then? I mean, in the convention, no,
They should
no.
have that, like a big no sign that like no LARPing allowed.
I honestly didn't knew anybody in Venezuela who LARP. I think that's a thing that I came familiar when once I left the country. I knew what it was, but I never knew somebody actually doing it in Venezuela.
I mean, wherever there's nerds, there's LARPs. That's just
That's it.
a rule.
Yeah, I would
That's
love
it.
to do it. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
I've
I
seen
would
them
be
here
terrible
in
at it.
Barcelona, and it's quite the sight. It's quite the sight.
I would terrible at it. I wouldn't have the discipline to master the blade.
Good way to put it. So, guys, I just wanted to pick your brains a little bit more in terms of like censorship in general. I just imagined that we were all going to be against it because we don't only come from a country where that was kind of an issue, but we're also
Unless
human.
I'm just kidding. Second thing.
Exactly. But also, like specifically about PlayStation, I think it's very interesting because we see this like history is very funny because the role that one person is fulfilling then can be passed on to another person. In this case, I would call it like the censorship role before it belonged to Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo has always been like very focused towards family friendly, especially I would say since in the Wii era, like that's where they were most let's say aggressive with the whole where we make games for kids kind of thing. And I remember that if you were to think who was going to censor anybody, it would have been Nintendo. Now you see games like I had one over here. Maybe it's Doki Doki Literature Club, or no, it wasn't that one. It was one that I think it's like a visual novel where there's like these girls. I mean, they don't show nudity, but they show like them in bathing suits and stuff. And on Switch, it was
Yeah.
like fully uncensored, and on PlayStation, it had like these bars that were censoring everything. And it's like, first of all, how funny it is to see now PlayStation be in that lane when their exclusives are so mature and so everything like that. We already talked about Last of Us Part Two, which is even worse than everything we've discussed in this episode yet.
And also
And
like obviously like in terms of violence it is, but also in terms of like kind of like progressive boundaries. I mean, it has a lot of things that 20 years ago would have been considered very edgy. It has like drug use, it has like homosexual relationships, like shit like that. And nowadays, I have to say that it seems like it's trying to be like super edgy or progressive, and it's really not. Like this is kind of like the status quo of video games. Like you could do that. Like no one's gonna be like wow. But it's funny that it happens with something like a horror game. Like it's so weird. It's like why you can't have this. And I would say the same thing for like not only that, but also sometimes there's kind of like a cultural reason for it, like the whole thing in China with the skeletons. Like skeletons apparently in China are like a pretty hardcore thing. Like they don't like it. So most games, they literally have kind of like texture versions without skeletons and stuff like that. I would like to even know like what's the case of like for example in Sea of Thieves, like how the skull situation is, because even in Dota, the Skeleton King has kind of like a different name in China, and it does not look like a skeleton guy. So I would get it, like in the sense like, oh no, this is too much. Like it's like if you put it's like if someone has a sword that is a dick in the West, and then it's like, well, it's not kind of like a common thing, to have a sword. But in general, I think that when it comes to like this case in Sony, I'm just like puzzled. Like, what could be going on there? Like, why? Is this kind of like a publicity stunt or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could be some agreements, laws that were there back in the 90s. Like as a big Japanese game person, like I like JRPG person, I always reading about what is going to be the censorship on the game being ported to the West. The last time that I did that was with Tales of Arise. I was really looking into what Bandai Namco would say what will be censored. In the end, nothing in the game was censored, which was pretty cool. But yeah, that happens quite a lot with Japanese games. Like it's a thing, and it's been happening since the 90s. Like even with from the Super Nintendo era, a lot of JRPGs or Japanese like type of games have been censored. Not that often, not that far ago. Final Fantasy VII, the remake, even went through censorship because of Tifa. Skirt was too long, too short, so they went into some things, even to like not showing the panties of Tifa, so they blur the whole thing and a bunch of stuff. Which I don't know if the same in Japan, or in Japan they let it go because for some reason panties are a thing that, oh my god, the Western world is gonna go insane if you see somebody showing panties. Like I don't really understand that. But yeah, I don't really know what's the deal there. What's the thing importing games to the West that it's really so offensive for our cultures, like showing some boobs, some anime boobs. It's not even like you're grabbing like a real person, somebody with I don't know, like if you grab the guy who did Norman Reedus
Uh huh.
and Death Stranding, and you put
Sam Porter
him,
Bridges. Yeah.
yeah, and then you put him to fuck the baby and the little bottle there. Like I don't know, if you put something like that, then oh man, I can understand that super fucking, oh man, that I can understand. But some anime boobs,
Like wow,
yeah.
like
Hey,
man,
they
Kojima,
told me
you'll be like,
before.
wow, Kojima is really out there now.
You know that Kojima have that clip somewhere. You know he has it
Yeah,
in
he's like,
some,
just in case,
just in case. Let me develop this, and then in 5 years, somebody's gonna go into the code of the game, and they will gonna find it, and then Kojima will be canceled. But like in
or
that kind of,
not,
if
or he
or
would
no,
just delete,
This
be a hero.
release
this
Death Stranding
podcast
2.
just took a Serbian twist.
Yeah, no. Juan asked me to be intense before the show starts, so I'm just gonna start dropping my things. But
Hope
in
that's
that
not a
case,
spoiler, man.
it's a spoiler for like the director's
Wow,
cut of Death Stranding, like
exactly.
the super
Oh my
director's
Wow.
fucking
cut.
god.
But in that type of things, if you like, I could understand things like in Judgment that you don't want people who has like their appearance in the game to be used to have like mods and stuff like that type of thing. I can all understand, yeah, because you're talking about real people and etc. But like censoring anime games just because they have too much boobs, or because I don't know, some character has some really big or really skimpy outfits and stuff. It's
Monsters. They're monsters,
or
censoring.
yeah, that I find so stupid. It's an anime, and that's a weird thing, because then we get the anime in the West, and the anime is not censored. Like I think what is the other game? It was not One Piece, but it's like there
The,
was another
the
JRPG that
Devil
came.
May Cry had this thing where there's a scene where Trish, she's like passed out or something, and Dante goes to pick her up, and she's naked, but they don't show her naked. But there's like a glimpse of the beginning of the ass cheek, and that they censored with like a lens flare that comes in like, and it's
Yeah,
like,
and so
what?
that's my
Why?
thing. What is the thing? It's like when things are shipped from another country into the Western market that gets censored, but if they're made here in the West, like in the US, then they don't get censored. So
I
it's
think that
some.
one thing that it's always important is like these companies really want to avoid trouble, and the way they do those translations, it's kind of shitty. Like they like most likely the people in charge of that have no idea what they're doing. I was checking out
Yeah.
the skeleton thing and I was like, why are they really like fucking censoring skeleton? And apparently like there's it's not that big of a thing, skeletons. Like probably like some company thought that, let's have absolutely no risks and then they just deleted skeletons. But yeah, games have skeletons. Seems like it's mostly American companies that they decide to remove them kind of like beforehand to avoid trouble. So maybe
Yeah.
something like that. They just don't want to, they just want to maximize profit, and then they censor everything they can just to make sure
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
But
and
I do
nothing
think that
that
we're in an
escapes.
era now that most of us are older. Like a lot of the people who plays those games are a bit older now, and we don't really want our games to be censored. Like you can go into any subreddit from any JRPG that is being brought into the West, and one of the main things that people always ask is like, "Is this game going to be censored?" Because I don't want it to be censored. Then I'd rather wait for some fan-made localization of the game that I can get on PC or whatever, and I can mod the game to have the actual thing than having this. Or they go to extents to like disconnect their consoles from the internet so they can just get the game and not get the patch.
Just to see a naked woman.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
which is kind of crazy too. But I can understand. Like you're paying for a product. If I pay for, I don't know, man. Like
Elden Ring. I don't know.
Yeah, Elden Ring. I pay for a movie. I wouldn't like the movie to be censored or some scenes removed just because somebody somewhere decided that I'm not allowed
Yeah,
to
but
watch these things.
the hardware locks you out. Like you cannot run, and it's something I always say. Like, cannot build your own game and run it on the Xbox, or like sell it like separately outside of the of all the licensing constraints that you have. So that's tricky. But I'm trying to think like games that they have nudity, and there's a few of them. I mean, Witcher 3 comes to mind. Witcher 3 definitely has boobs, right?
Yeah.
Last of Us
And
2, right? No?
No, not fully apparent like tits hanging. No.
No, I mean, not tits,
not
maybe.
hanging.
No, but
Sorry.
I think there is a part where it's like a top is shown, right? Or no?
Let me see. Yeah, there's definitely. By the way, there's definitely a lot of skin in this Last of Us 2 scene. So yeah,
Yeah. That's
That
what I
was not
meant.
censored. Like,
no,
and
not
for what I'm
censored. At
reading-
least not in YouTube. Okay, I'm gonna close this tab. Keep talking to you guys.
And it was not censored because I'm reading, like, for example, one of the last games being censored was Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There's a bloody scene that was censored in Asian versions for PS4 and PS5.
But probably that's completely preventive. Like that's what I'm saying. Like probably like it's like even before then.
Yeah, I think it depends on somebody. Somebody just the person who has to check the game or has to review the game or like give the check that whoever's in charge is the one who decides what is going to be censored or not. That's it's how it feels like, because how it's possible that some games does, some games doesn't. You know, it's I don't know. I don't know how companies do that. I don't know how developers do this. I don't know if they pay some third party company to check that for them. And one of them is like, I don't know, owned by the how it's called, this church in the U.S. that wants to
The
kill
Baptist,
Mormons.
the Westboro
Yeah,
Baptist
the
Church.
Westbury
Westboro
Baptist
Baptist.
Church, and then they censor everything. I don't know. I don't know how it's worked, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very arbitrary. There is no consistency at all, because it would be one thing to have examples like Martha is Dead, which was censored or will be censored, and Mortal Kombat. But we also have the examples right in Sony first party, which that's the one that makes like the least amount of sense. But you know, I think Naughty Dog has like a carte blanche to do whatever the fuck they want, so that's also a factor here.
Yeah.
And
But even Mortal Kombat has been censored in any country. Like the only controversy Mortal Kombat has was back in the 90s when actually the ESVR was created.
Yeah.
So like,
And it was censored on a Nintendo platform, because if you were to play it on the Sega, you did have the blood. On
that is true.
Nintendo platforms,
I had the Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat. I have it in Super Nintendo, and every time you hit somebody, they just like it's like dust
Sweat.
coming out of them.
No, sweat. Yeah.
Well, it looked like dust.
And the
because,
fatalities
graphics.
were different.
Yeah. So and when you kill somebody, they have like 15,000 skulls inside their bodies and 3,000 rib cages and too many bones for a human to have, which was pretty funny for me. But yeah, that okay, whatever.
It's insane. Yeah, I just wanted to mention one last example, which is the one I said, Doki Doki Literature Club. No spoilers, but the blood in the game is black instead of red, which is kind of like, I mean, okay,
Yes,
whatever.
That's a problem. You cannot say that. That's already a spoiler for Doki Doki. Like you cannot say anything about that game. That's
Okay,
a problem.
I'll remove that part from the edit then, because
No,
I
mean,
really
you have to put like beep, 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 beep.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I put that, but that's the thing. Like, because people don't understand. Like, one of the biggest shock of that game is playing it, and then you see like the tagging saying horror, and you're playing the game, and you're like, "What the fuck is going on? How is this horror?"
Yeah,
Until things happen, and
exactly.
Then, yeah.
Really worth it, by the way. So
check
there's another phase to the censorship aspect, which is the political side, and that's also one that I wanted to talk about. You guys kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I censored you because I wanted to speak about it now and not then. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So the best example I can think of, I mean, there's a couple, and they're all very very recent. But the one that comes to mind like most proficiently is the word? No, prominently is the word. Is this game called Devotion, which is a game that I really want to play just because of this whole thing, which is kind of like what Christian said about Martha is Dead. Now we want to play it and on Xbox. But yeah, so the game Devotion was made by the Taiwanese developers called Red Candle Games. It was released, quote unquote, on February 21st, 2019. and later removed from Steam due to a reference of a Chinese prime minister. I'm not sure if this is the president or prime minister. I'm a little bit ignorant on that,
The
but
king.
it's the king. Okay,
The
so
leader
the
of
king
the
China.
Communist Party, whatever
Exactly.
it's called.
So there's this running joke that I don't really get why, but he's always compared to Winnie Pooh, and
Because
apparently
he looks like him.
He looks like
okay.
Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the
Okay.
Pooh is censored in China.
exactly.
You can go to jail for
Exactly.
that.
You can go to jail and probably like concentration camps, which exist, by the way.
No, that
And
only happened to the Muslim people in China.
Oh, okay,
They're the only ones sent to concentration camp.
You'd be sent to classical Yale,
Yeah, that's white privilege,
which
right
is
there.
just as bad.
And then, so the funny thing about this
Go to
game is
Yale,
that
people.
don't go to jail. That's our recommendation here in this podcast. Oh, I'm running out of battery, so give me 1 second.
See, that should be censored here. Come on.
Will be censored.
Some double that you know where you're
What is this, an
streaming
Xbox
from the
controller?
Xbox? Exactly.
Yeah.
You're streaming from the Xbox.
Okay, so the game is removed from Steam because of this. Initially, I think it was removed from Steam only in China, and then it was removed altogether from Steam. So after this, I remember because I kind of was following this story at that time. The guys at GOG, who are the same people behind CD Projekt, so because they own that storefront, they were like, "Don't worry, guys, we're gonna save this game. We're gonna be, the saviors of free speech or whatever you want to call it." And for some reason, it took them like more than a year to bring it to Steam. To GOG.com. And it was on, I think, so the game was released in February 21st, 2019. It came to GOG on December 2020. And it was only on GOG for hours because then it was removed again because of, quote unquote, receiving many messages from gamers. That was GOG's excuse as to why it was removed. Of course, nobody bought this. I mean, because they were kind of like shifting the blame towards gamers, and it's probably because at some point of I don't know what, they decided to censor themselves, or they were let's say advised to do so because of Chinese sensibilities or something like that. I'm sure that has to be the case. And also I remember that this was like for me the straw that rose the camel's back, because it was during the time where we had the Cyberpunk 2077 controversy. So it was like CD Projekt Red kept receiving like blow after blow after blow in their public relations. And yeah, for me, this was the part where I said, okay, these guys, fuck those guys. And I think now the game is available through their own website or storefront. They had to like do a custom thing because, due to this whole thing, it was very, very hard to just get it to be sold anywhere. And, after that, we have other examples like the Blitzchung controversy, which we can maybe get into. I think everybody, we've talked about it in this podcast as well. And then also talking about Activision one more time, Tiananmen Square, like there was a scene, I think, in the trailer for maybe Black Ops Cold War,
Yeah.
John, am I correct?
War.
Okay, cool. And they removed that because, the mention of that was offensive to Chinese sensibilities or politics sensibilities or something like that. So yeah, this is the other side. I think this is the more important side of the conversation, because PlayStation's thing is kind of like, why are you doing this? But in the end, that doesn't really matter. Here, we're getting like constant content, like literally castrated by these things. So let's go to what do you guys think about this? Let's start with John this time. What do you think?
Well, it's the same thing. It shouldn't be, and nobody should be bending themselves to agree with some country's political ideas or ideologies. Like, that's bullshit. Art should not be censored. I don't care if it comes from which side. It shouldn't be censored. That's one of the things. Art is art, and it's part of the human history, and it's part of who we are, and it should be there to represent the good and the bad. So being and that doesn't have to do anything to do with video games, but that's my position in that regard. And yeah, it is stupid that just because somebody has such a low self-esteem, which is make it way more funny, because we're not talking about a teenage boy, we're talking about the leader of the Communist Party and China, that have such a low autoesteem that you made a game to go like, how did I say that? Like, I think GOG doesn't have anything to do with China. I think CD Projekt Red doesn't have any tidings with China, at least not public ones. Like the Tencent, for example, doesn't own anything CD Projekt Red. So how in the fuck this country, this government, whoever, these gamers have the influence to make your storefront take down a game? Like,
So I think that is the answer is like they don't want any trouble whatsoever. So the
But
moment like a
yeah,
little trouble comes up, it's
yeah.
like okay, we let's not fight this battle.
But it's a lack of
probably.
balls, man. Like, because freedom of speech, like, I think
It
you will
takes
have more
balls to
people.
defend it.
You
You
will
know
have
what?
more people supporting you by keeping this game there and giving you a stand than not. It's like it is not 100% related, but it's kind of like the Hearthstone champion, that kid that won.
Blitzchung. Yeah.
Yeah, that won that Hearthstone championship, and then he said like support Hong Kong and fuck China, something
Yeah.
like that. And
So
then they removed the prize from him, and then everybody pressured Blizzard to like, dude, what the fuck, So
Hmm.
but he's still banned though. Like
yeah, no,
the
probably,
and
Oh,
but this
even
he's
got his
still
money
banned.
though.
yeah, of course. And even the casters were fired. Like
Yeah,
like literally everyone like it was like the whole thing was like nuclear reaction immediately. Like the casters that they have nothing to do, they were banned. The he was banned and the prize pool was removed. It was savage. And even
no,
some casters from the US, they quit. Brian Keebler, that he was probably like the best professional caster that they had. He was like, yeah, I'm not gonna work with this company anymore. And also that's our admiral. That's who was another cat. That's his name. Well, not his name. That's his nickname. That's admiral. He also quit, saying like, okay, this goes against my values and whatnot. And
exactly.
eventually Brian Kibler, like he came back, like he still does like card reveals for them, and he casted a few events, and he's participated back with the but it was never like there was never like any real retribution to Blitzchung or like anything like that. It just the whole thing blew up. Activision was like, yeah, we're sorry, and that was it. Like they literally did the South Park meme of like, we didn't do we didn't do
Oh,
the best thing we could
that,
do.
that
Yeah,
one.
exactly, and that was it. And it was ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
they obviously have like massive interests, and it's a very they're definitely not a controversial company for the right reasons. And this is just another example of like, I know what you're saying, like it takes balls, but also like it's a weird context because a lot of people involved here, they did not sign up for that. Like they're like, we're just playing a children's card game, boys. Like it just not like they didn't want that to be kind of like the the I don't know, the battleground
yeah,
of a political war. And in
I
the
know,
end,
but
it
yeah,
wasn't. I think because like the whole
but
thing, there
then
was this meme on the subreddit that there was like this post that it had like 40K upvotes. It was like, let's not forget this. We will remember what happened today. And then kind of the same guy was kind of like months later like, hey, anyone else bought the pack? And do you know how many legendaries you're supposed to get on this 90 pack deal? Some
yeah,
shit like that. Like he
And then
pre-ordered.
capture the comment. This you? Is that something like
It
that?
was literally like that. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, like it just and it became a meme because like after 2 days, people on the subreddit were completely over it, and they were like, yeah, this card is so OP, it's so bullshit, they should nerf it. and and that is also the truth. Like these games they're not the last bastion of cultural independence, but they
no,
could be, but they're really not. Like people are there just to have fun and not
Yeah.
get triggered.
yeah, no, but I do understand. Like, it's a point of them to just to stand by your ideas. Imagine if that guy was not a Hong Kong citizen, but he will be a Venezuelan guy, then say, hey, take attention to my country and fuck Chavez, fuck Maduro, whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
And then it's your like not everybody has a platform to speak. So when somebody at least bring it to
yeah,
the public light, I think it's nice. It's the same thing for me than actors receiving like their Oscars or whatever little shit they get, because I hate all that bullshit. And then they stand there, surrounded by all their millionaire friends talking about political things just to be, look at me, I did my work today, I
yeah,
just earned 40 million. And go. But they use that to try to do something, and they don't get censored. So that's the weird thing. Like if you speak about China, you get censored, but if you speak about anything else, it is fine. You just get a pass like go ahead, and that's scary because that means like China is untouchable. China has so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
money and so much control that you cannot really do anything. You cannot talk, and that's, I mean, coming from where we come from, I found that extremely worrying and
I
extremely dangerous. Like
I've heard
it's
Yeah.
that Disney has kind of like a ban list of actors that they haven't worked with them, but they will not work with them because they said like edgy shit on online, stuff like that. Like some agents say that if you ever said kind of like "fuck you" to a fan or something like that, or like you're very politically active, like for example, like if you're a conservative, like most likely they're not gonna like pick you up nowadays, or like if you're edgy or like have that kind of thing. Like they're not looking for influential people anymore.
Okay.
yeah, and then yeah,
But you know,
that's sad. Yeah,
in regards to what John said about like having balls and stuff, I do think that, I mean, it's not as simple as that. That's why I like what Christian said. Like there are people who maybe don't, that's not really what they're looking for when they're going to that game, or when they're working at those companies, or anything like that. Like that is a valid point. However, like I think we can look at this from two different perspectives. Either China has the power to pressure and let's say get results out of these companies, or these companies are doing this preemptively in order to not jeopardize their impact in China and therefore their earnings in China, which I think it's most of what Activision is doing. Like I think that is exactly what's happening with them.
I think it's a combination of things, and
Sure, that
also
could be.
that a lot of these companies they do operate in China, and that's how things get done in China. Like it's already like
yeah,
it's like the Communist Party is. It's not like they have like they filtered in all these companies. Like they are part of these companies, and the people working for them know how things are supposed to run, and they apply these all these rules, and it's a combination of things. Like when the whole Hearthstone thing happened, the first thing that the mods in the Facebook page did was just post like, we love China, what happened today was not acceptable, and everyone involved this will be punished, and blah blah blah, long live China. And it's because they believe it. Like it's probably like a cultural hot topic there. For us it's like, whoa, this man can say that. But it is a lot more common to be on the authoritarian side, depending where you land in the country, than being on the other side. It's the exception. I would say that US is the exception. But if you do a game that talks about like killing a president, like most governments will ban it, as it has happened before. I don't think
I
you
mean,
can play Black Ops on Cuba.
Well, yeah, but probably for
well, I
many
mean,
different reasons
For me,
that
exactly.
are not only,
Several
yeah.
fucking reasons. But
yeah, but that's a curious thing because there's I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of media out there where U.S. presidents get killed, or get fucked as for somehow reason.
everywhere, like in
Yeah,
24,
but then
like
you have
it's
like
kind of
the
like the
movie
main plot
from,
of the first seasons of 24 is like someone wants to kill the president.
yeah, and
Splinter
somebody
Cell,
kidnapped the daughter of the president,
yeah.
and whatever,
In
or then the
Splinter Cell, that
president.
it's
Yeah,
a what a Splinter
Conviction,
Cell was it? What? Which one?
conviction.
Conviction. Like in the end, you're shooting your way through the White House, and someone killed the
yeah,
president and
So
whatnot.
and
It's
good.
like,
that's even
and it's super good. It's
what
like
is the name? Modern Warfare 3 or 2, I don't remember which one. You storm the White House because it's
yeah.
taken by Russians, and that happens. But
And Kevin
then
Spacey is the president, right?
no,
No,
that's in
No,
that's
the bad
Ghosts.
guy.
advanced
Ghosts.
warfare.
That's
Advanced,
advanced warfare.
Warfare,
You're right.
Warfare,
You're
or
right. You're
Ghosts.
right.
I
It's
don't remember.
okay.
Yeah,
But he's
but
not the
then
president there. He's like the president of a company, right?
yeah, I think
I don't
so.
remember. Like, but yeah, that's the thing. You do those things in America, and it's fine. It's completely fine. But then you make what is the name of this guy?
Man,
Franco,
that the president of that company is probably canceled in the future sequels.
for sure.
Yeah, probably.
But
And then you
there's
actually kill Kevin Spacey. You should like he's like hanging from a cliff and then he dies.
Well,
I don't remember.
there's actually a fun story about that, and Troy Baker was in that game as he is everywhere, of course. But
And he had sex
that was
with Kevin Spacey.
he had sex with Kevin Spacey. Yeah, it was crazy.
What?
No, no.
That's a story? What have they
No,
pulled
so
on?
the story is that they had to change the ending of the game, which was, of course, directly tied to the Kevin Spacey thing, because that's the point where he got canceled. So
Really?
I think that originally he was going to survive what happens in the end, and then they had to like do this thing, and where they had to even call Troy, and I think he had to like maybe deliver a final line or something like that. I mean, this is best told by him because it was about him, but they did have to scramble and make changes because of the Kevin Spacey controversy. They did have to do that, yeah. And
Damn.
change the end of the game completely. And I think that's one of the criticisms, is that the ending is like very abrupt, and that's the reason why, I think. So yeah. So there is another game that I want.
What's excuse for the other campaigns to be shitty?
Exactly.
Yeah, but to go back to that, like then all of this happens in the U.S. and in games related to the U.S. and American governments and whatever, and it's fine. But then you have a movie like the James Franco movie that talks about
The Interview.
North Korea, and then they got like Chinese bot, and they get like bombarded with a bunch of shit. They get hacked. They get this.
So
they
actually,
get
a friend of
canceled.
mine was
It's
working
like,
on Sony while this happened, and that hack was like really, really, like really real. Like they wiped
Yeah.
out the email servers. Like suddenly they didn't have access to email. All the like if you were kind of like a video editor, you have like FTP access to like some like to some hard drives, so you could like pull clips of like upcoming movies and stuff like that. All that got wiped out. Everything got leaked, like emails from people that were just kind of like community managers, like they were out in the open, like shit. Like
yeah.
it was probably like one of the most massive security breaches on
So
entertainment industry. And
that's
they,
where the double
yeah,
standards happens,
Yeah.
like then they do that and that's it. Like there's not like a big retribution or something like that. But I'm not gonna praise America because no, I really don't like America, like the United States culture and everything. I really have a lot of differences with them, but they take this normal, like they in all their stupidity, because let's be honest, they kind of are. They can see the difference between a media or a portrayal or a story or a science fiction or whatever that is not reality. It's just a piece of media that is just doing something completely different. And I mean, this comes in the end in that the communist people are just pussies and they cannot take any criticism. That's pretty much what it is in
yeah.
the end.
Ultimately,
But
part of what a good piece of art has to do is like challenge your views,
yeah,
and you'll be able
and
to defend it. Like there's like something on that discussion. Like I get it if someone's like, oh, I don't want to play Grand Theft Auto because I don't like violence. It's like, okay,
that's understandable. But then you cannot go and try to take Grand Theft Auto out of every shelf in every store.
exactly.
You
Like,
just don't
it's
do
like
it. Don't
fuck
play
me.
it. Don't. I don't like it. I don't play it. It's the same. I don't like it. I don't play it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
As that.
Yeah, but it's
So
super sinister because I mean it's not as simple as, wow, these guys have very fragile egos, like with the example of Winnie the Pooh thing. It's not as
I
simple
mean,
as that. It's even worse because it's like the idea that this idea that was horrible. The idea that this product, in this case a game or a narrative or a character, whatever it might be, has the even the slightest potential of planting a small seed of doubt within a person, within these communist or authoritarian regimes, that is where they see the
Yeah.
the danger. It's a cultural danger, not necessarily an egotistical danger, because
it's
for
a
example,
spark of revolution.
yeah, it's things like we can't, like I remember I was once watching, I mean this is a Hollywood movie, of course it has all sorts of biases in it, but I think it's true because of things that I've experienced as well, which is Child 44. I mean Tom Hardy, he's a Russian guy in the USSR, blah blah blah. There's this murder of children on the loose, and one of the things that he had to fight with was not only catching the murderer, it was the fact that the Soviets can't admit that this is true, because admitting this would mean that in a communist utopia these kinds of things happen, and that is a threat to the idea of the utopia. And the fact that you have to censor keeping that in mind is so sinister and so horrible and so
Yeah,
like unthinkable that
It's
that is
bad.
the true danger.
it's 1994, man. Like
Not
like the
good.
book.
Yeah.
It's like every
1994, great
authoritarian.
year.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it is crazy. For everyone who comes from like authoritarian regime and stuff, this type of things, it's pretty real. And I think everybody who managed to get out of that can see it this way. I can understand somebody who hasn't lived through it not being that biased or like that. focus. Yeah, I can understand it, but still, man, I don't find it. It shouldn't happen, man. I shouldn't happen. For example, for me, out of all that we have spoken, like the Tiananmen Square clip that was removed, dude, that's part of your story. That's you did something horrible there. That deal with it, dude. Deal with it. Fuck it. Like you did that. You cannot be then asking the people to forget that you did that. It's like somebody in our country asking to exactly to remember the coup back in the 90s from Chavez that murdered a bunch of people, or this other asshole murdering a bunch of workers in a TV channel. And like, no, that never happened. No, we didn't do that. Not remove that. That's not true. No, it is true, man. I admit it. It's like German people can admit that they did terrible things back in World War II. They did were part of the Nazi party. They did horrible things, and now they repent of it. They're pretty clear about it. They have monuments and things to pay tribute to the people who died in those things. And you are, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are like repenting of it. And but I don't see them then censoring everything that has to do with Nazi Germany. Then and like, no, then you cannot make this game of because no, we never did this.
Well,
We never did this. It never
they do
happened.
censor it. I mean, you can't like
Yeah,
like
they
I think they
do.
have to
Yeah,
change the Wolfenstein game, but again, like I don't know if it's a preventive thing. Like it could be a preventive thing, like because
I think
they
it's. I
change
think
in
it's
Wolfenstein.
like
It's not
a.
they don't have swastikas. They have, and it's not kind
They
of
don't have.
like
They don't have
the Nazis.
swastikas.
It's
They
kind of like
they
the
have like a
Union.
different sort of symbol. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then let's
Um.
go back to Call of Duty. Then Call of Duty Vanguard, it did has swastikas during the campaign. Like you go into actually Germany, and you go into not Berlin,
No,
but
no,
the
yeah,
same
yeah,
Frankfurt,
for
and have
sure.
like the
You have them,
like
but
the
they're historical games. So I think that in that case, the thing with the Wolfenstein game is like they go over the top, and they probably try to strike like a different sensibility there, and
mm,
bypass laws. And I think, but again, like I think a lot of it is preventive censorship, which again I agree it's even worse because it's like have some balls, like don't be like one step ahead of the government on what you can say or can't. Like
yeah.
it's not like you're not paying your taxes. It's like, okay, what's like, try to challenge some ideas, try to challenge
Yeah.
something.
Well, that's what
Games should have
the
more
Man
like
on the
more
High Castle
balls.
does,
Yeah.
no? Like I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't
Exactly.
watched the Man on the High Castle, like the series. I don't know if they use swastikas in
No, yeah,
in
they
the
do, they
thing.
do. Like it's about
They do.
Nazis. So,
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much Wolfenstein,
and
the
the movies
movie.
have
So
them. It's just like a thing that Wolfenstein probably preemptively changes that in order to like agree with some crazy law. Because then there's also the topic that movies and music are kind of like in a different tier of respect when it comes to like artistic freedom than video games that are still considered
yeah,
to some extent still toys in
yeah,
most countries. Like they're still,
that's true.
it's not the same level of entertainment.
Yeah,
Like
haven't crossed that barrier of like being an art form
yeah.
before being
So
yeah,
it's like, well, this is a children's
Al-
game, and it shouldn't have
yeah,
swastikas, kind of thing.
Also, I think that to comment on what John said about like you said like, oh, but in Vanguard there are swastikas on or whatever. I think that the thing is that they censor it, but they only censor it for themselves. Like they're not like in the other case where it's like nobody can play Devotion. No, no, no. Germans are like, okay, in our country this is gonna be censored in this way, and that's just our thing. And I think that that makes a little bit more sense, even though I mean it's still censorship, but it's kind of censorship with a limitation. So it's cool as well. So
Yeah.
one last thing I wanted to say, because I know Christian has to go. In terms of this whole talking about, let's say, preventative censorship, which is kind of even worse. There is a game that John is playing, which is called Guilty Gear Strive by Arc System Works. That game has, I think, no Chinese affiliations yet, and they removed Taiwan from their lore just because, just like to
John
avoid
is about
trouble.
to rage
I
quit
mean,
the episode and be like, damn it, I spent
in that game lore,
60
even
euros.
Japan doesn't exist in that game. Japan is a big hole in the sky because it was bombed to death. So Japan doesn't exist in the Guilty Gear War, and it's a game made by Japanese people. So
There's
you
no
know,
Japan,
there's
No,
no
but
Japan. There's just a big hole there. When
and
what
China
I
is
understand is
there.
that
I don't
before
know.
Taiwan was there and they removed it. Like they actually patched it out.
But how
That's
do
what I've
you patch it?
understood.
Because you don't really fight in a con. I don't know. I'm not a big Guilty Gear. This is my
You
first
haven't
Guilty Gear
watched the
game.
hour and a half
No, I
lore
haven't watched the hour and a
video.
half lore because that just is gonna confuse me more because we're talking about 6 games that I need to then read the lore about it. But I do know that Japan doesn't exist. Japan is just a whole because some war just destroy and ravage the whole country. So there's no Japan anymore. Taiwan, I don't know. I don't think you play. I don't think you play in any country in that game. Like there's
No, but
like
I'm saying like
that,
maybe I don't know, like this whatever character is from Taiwan or something like that. Like that's what I mean. Like in the lore,
that I
like
wouldn't know. I know
something
there's
within the lore,
some.
they changed it.
I know there's a guy who is a ninja, but and he's blonde, but he's like Asian, but he's the president of the United States. So and then he was removed from that, and then he became president of some African country. So that's the type of game that we're
Man,
talking about. It's
so
amazing.
so
Yeah,
that's
it's
like
great.
his profession. He's president.
I
The president.
ninja slash president. Yeah,
It's like a
exactly.
football coach, but like
Yeah.
but president for countries.
So we're talking about a really insane game, which has probably a lot of lore, and a lot of people will hate because I don't know it by heart. But yeah, I don't know about the Taiwan
Taiwan
thing.
is a country. Also, like John Cena apologized for calling Taiwan a
That
country.
that
What
was
a-
pathetic.
What a fucking
That was
what a bitch.
Yeah.
What a bitch. John Cena, if you're watching this, you're a bitch.
You're a bitch. Let's fight. You bitch.
No. I don't fight bitches.
personal rule. I don't fight bitches. Okay, guys, I think that
Exactly.
Christian has to go. So I mean, John, do you want to stay and chat about games that we're playing, or do we just leave it like this?
Yeah, no, we can talk about it. I mean, I don't play anything different than you. You are the one who started a new game, so for me, it's Sea of Thieves, and I think that's the same for Christian. So
See,
I can
I
see you
barely-
later, fellas.
I barely finished Persona. I mean, I finished it. I Platinum did. I loved it. I think it's a masterpiece. I know I've already talked a lot about it, so I won't continue onto that. I did mention I played Doki Doki Literature Club. This is a game that is not only free on Steam. It's I don't really want to say anything about it because I think, and you know this because you played it as well,
you
John.
can't.
Saying
Yeah,
saying anything is kind of spoiling it. So I would just say that
Yeah.
it is not what it seems. It is very,
Yeah.
very worth your time, and it doesn't take a lot of time because you can beat it like in 3 hours. So
yeah.
please go out and play it. As I
And
said,
yeah,
free on
don't
Steam.
don't get deterred. You know, don't get like I think that's the only thing that you can say with not being spoilers. Don't get deterred. I don't know if that's a word. Like
Yeah,
or don't hold yourself just because you see that it's a visual novel. Because I know visual novel is a hard thing to do. Like not everybody's into visual novels, but even though it is a visual novel, it has way more going on than that. So I think that's the only thing I can say without being a spoiler, is that there has way more going on. So it's just an experience. Like just push through it, push through the first, I don't know, hour. I think after the first hour, things start getting good. So just push past the dating scene, visual novel type of vibe, and just go through, and you will get yourself into some mind fuckery there that it's pretty insane.
Pretty insane. It's pretty insane, and yeah, I think. I mean, this is not a spoiler, but just maybe to like entice you to play it. Just look at a picture of the game first, and then realize it's a horror game, and then just see if maybe that kind of draws your interest, because that's what got me. I mean, I was like, wait, this is a horror game, and then if you take it from there, I'm sure you won't be disappointed.
And
because
from
it's
somebody
very-
who hates horror games, I don't like horror games because I found them cheesy and annoying. Because I don't understand people who just go into a horror place with a video camera without batteries, and it's like you cannot grab a freaking stick and hit somebody in the head. I don't understand that survival type of thing. You're a survival or you're stupid. I don't know, but yeah, this for me it's insanely good. Yeah, we can talk that another time, because I know you love horror games. I just hate the survival horror game. Like, oh, I'm so scared. It's like, dude, you have like a pipe next to you. Just drop that shit and hit the monster. Like, I don't know, whatever.
But wait,
then-
are you saying
then,
that you don't
yes,
like, horror games in general, or just the ones where you can't attack, like Amnesia and
Just the ones that make me feel like a bitch. Those are the ones that exactly like the ones that I don't. I find it like really cheap. It's like, okay, maybe because I've never been in a situation where some ethereal, from the whatever fucking fifth dimension comes and try to kill me. But I think being the Venezuelan I am and the freaking ghetto bitch that I can be sometimes, I will try to grab whatever I have in my hand and just I cannot run, man. I'm lazy. I play video games. I'm not in shape. I cannot be running my whole life. You think if somebody cuts my hand, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna keep pushing. Nah, let's say, fuck it, kill me. I don't have a hand. I don't have anything reason to live anymore. So at least I just gonna go down fighting. So I hate when they do that shit. Like, oh, I'm running out of battery. And what camera do you have that runs out of battery in 30 seconds? What the fuck camera is that? Can you not at least get like a
That is
decent
true.
camera? But whatever. Yeah, that's why
Well,
I don't like
maybe
horror
they
games. I do
are
like some type of horror games, but
okay. Well, maybe the reason why the batteries run so quick is because that's a universe where all batteries have been used by Xbox players. So
yeah,
they all
that
they've all like ran the batteries
that's
out,
bullshit.
and that's the only ones that are there lying around.
So
You know,
you're
that
saying that
would
all
be
of these games are Sony marketing to like make fun of Xbox
exactly.
and not by
It's
Microsoft
it's
problem. Okay.
what's the word what's the word
Subliminal
subliminal,
marketing.
yeah. Subliminal marketing,
Yeah,
exactly,
subliminal
that's
marketing.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So
No. I
what
mean, I
else are
love
you
Dead
playing,
Space. Dead
John?
Space is a great game. So
That is true.
I'm not playing anything. I'm playing Sea of Thieves, and that's it. I play a bit of Guilty Gear, but yeah, I'm on a hiatus. Hiatus? It's not the word. I don't know. Maybe it is. I just don't play anything because I want to see what's going on. Like if Horizon comes out in 2 days, and then next week Elden Ring comes out. So I'm just waiting to see which game captures me. I have Dying Light there waiting. I haven't played that much because I want to see if Horizon didn't capture me, which to be honest is not capturing that much. I'm not that excited for the game. I saw the how it's called, like the reviews, and I have seen some gameplay, and for me it looks exactly the same as the first one, just with a new coat of paint. And I'm not gonna be like these people like, oh, it's because they're reusing animations, it looks like shit. No, not at all. It's that I just didn't click with the original one that much, and I didn't see that many improvements in the things that I didn't like about the first one to be hooked into this one, like the combat, like the people versus people combat doesn't. It looks the same shit. It looks the same. Press the button and you do that, and I think Christian. I don't know if he said in this podcast or he said it to me. Like he feels that that game works if you kind of realize that you are in a universe when everybody's an idiot, and that's what the game start making sense. Because how is it possible that Aloy is the only one who has a brain that can think about other stuff, like the people there doesn't think. So that type of thing really pisses me off. And so yeah, I don't know if that game doesn't capture me. I think I'm gonna keep going Dying Light, and then, which to be honest is not like the best life-changing story, but it's fun at least. So yeah, if that's my status right now. I'm just waiting for Elden Ring. I'm not gonna lie to myself. The only thing I care about is Elden Ring. So I'm playing Sifu and I'm playing Sea of Thieves. Those are my two games that I'm playing. I really recommend Sifu. Don't believe anything else. It's not that hard. It gives you a lot of tools to make the game pretty accessible, and pretty bearable, I would say. Like, unless you want to be a masochist and play the whole game, like the whole 5 stages without dying once, which is not going to be possible. It is pretty asequible. I don't know what is the word. So yeah,
Approachable,
those
I
are
would
my
say. Yeah.
two games I'm playing right now. Approachable, yeah. It has the things. Like honestly, it's not that crazy as some people say. So yeah, those are, yeah. So far, indie games for the win this year. Like I'm hoping some AAA, like probably Elden Ring, but I hope some AAA game really can fight back, because so far it's been again another indie game year. So
Okay, sounds good. Well, we've reached the end of this episode. We hope you've enjoyed this talk about censorship, which is not it's not an easy topic, but it's an interesting topic. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please subscribe, like it, share it with other friends that you think would maybe enjoy this kind of conversation, and comment if you want. Or we'll take a comment, right, John?
yeah,
We'll
sure.
take it.
Yeah, maybe you're lucky and I will
And
reply to you. Who knows?
maybe we will, but to find that out, you gotta
You will
comment.
never know who's gonna reply to you. It's gonna be me. It's gonna be Juan. It's gonna be Christian. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it's kind of a Russian roulette, because depending on what you ask and what kind of answer you're expecting, it's gonna be very, very different.
Yeah, I think they will know who is replying to. Like, if they start like "fuck you," it's gonna be me. If it replies with
Exactly.
a really understandable thing, it's gonna be Juan. And if it's gonna be like a pretty humorous backhanded type of things gonna be Christian probably.
Absolutely. Those are the archetypes in this podcast. So please enjoy. We will see you on the next episode of the show. And goodbye.